everyone. Today I've got the incredible Drew Bennett with me. Drew, please could you introduce yourself and share how you were drawn to Avalon?
Sure. Hi folks, I'm Drew Bennett, Archdruid of Glastonbury and Avalon, and I came to Glastonbury first of all in 1984, in the summer of 84, after having been struck by lightning on, no joke, under an oak tree on the midsummer solstice in the middle of Berkshire. And for a week I had dream images of this weird ridge-shaped hill with a tower on the top. Never seen anything like it before. Kept on dreaming about it. It was starting to drive me more than a little bonkers. And then that Sunday at the end of the week, there was an Everyman programme on the BBC about Glastonbury pilgrimage, and they had this helicopter shot of Glastonbury tour, and I went, oh my God, this place actually exists. Then the impulse to visit the place came, because I had to see it for myself. Of course I had to see it for myself. And that wasn't going to let up until I did that. I was not going to get any peace. So I was summoned. And Glastonbury does that, it summons its people. It decides you're of use and it wants you working here, and then you don't really get an option, really. It just arranges everything. You can escape for short periods of time, a couple of years, and then the elastic stretches and twangs and you get very rapidly yanked back. And you always land on your feet. You'll always land on your feet, because if the place wants you here, it does provide ultimately. We were talking earlier about that. We just had a little faith in the spirit of place. Because when Avalon decides it wants you here in Glastonbury on this Isle of Glass, it'll make sure you have what you need to be here. Well, I've landed here at times with no home, no money, no wherewithal for anything, and just been sorted from the minute I got off the bus. Just been looked after and sorted. Roof overhead, and fed and watered and just looked after. Glastonbury looks after its own.
Always.
Yeah, always.
So Drew, how do you experience and express your spiritual path in Avalon day to day?
In my home I've got a couple of altars. One of all things is actually an Egyptian altar. It's a shrine to Sekhmet, the lion goddess. It's probably one of my favourite goddesses, really, from around the world. I really love Sekhmet. She's fierce and protective. She's really the Egyptian Kali. There's a heavy aspect to her, but she also looks after her cubs and her pride, and if she sees you as one of her kittens, you're onto a good thing, really. So I light incense and a candle for her daily, and either myself on my own or myself and my apprentice chant a chant to her. Sa sachem sahu Ankh Pata Sekhmet Ka. I chant to her and we make offering to her. But on a day-to-day basis, it's walking around Glastonbury, both in the town and in the landscape around the town, and just walking on the earth mindfully, consciously, clocking what is happening around you. Because that's when you see people who are in need and need help. Otherwise we just blindly and blithely walk past. And for me, a lot of the times, typical as a druid, trees are always wanting a conversation. They're awful gossips. Some of the things they want to talk about is a bit silly, really, but I'm never alone. Getting them to shut up is the problem. Getting them to be so, just, I'm a minute's peace, please. I'm sure a psychiatrist would have a field day with me, but it is walking mindfully and asking the overall, overarching spirit of place here what it needs from me, what it wants me to be doing for it, because it's not here to serve me. I'm here to serve Avalon. And there are other people like Jim Killian and others here who have that same ethic in Glastonbury. There's a lot of us who do. We've come here to just get on with the work, and I'm by and large at peace with that. There's times when it's annoying and irritating, and you feel like your life's being shanghaied, but mostly it's a good world. And I'll have moments when I was living up on Hill Head where I walked down off Hill Head, down off the road, and you just, as you walk down the slope, you just got that view to Glastonbury Tor and Chalice Hill, and it's just beautiful seeing the two hills side by side, sunlit. And every now and then I'll see that and have this reminder that reminds me how privileged I am to live in such a beautiful piece of the world. It is one stunning landscape, and it is in that beauty that I see God. God, Goddess, and all that is there before me every day. And I'll stand on Wirral Hill and look out over the Brew Valley to Butley Woods and that Vale of Butley, and that land there and the landscape on the old maps is referred to as, in the Anglo-Saxon English, as Seilants de Summer, the lands of summer. It literally is the summer lands, and it's a privilege to live in the summer lands.
When we say goddess or divine feminine, what does that mean for you?
The divine feminine is something we all contain, because whether you're male or female, you are a child of the All-Father and the Great Mother. We are all their children. So for me, it's where Christian faith gets it wrong. Jesus is the Son of God. No, we're all sons and daughters of God. We are all capable of being Christ-like. We're all capable of walking that journey and walking that dance. And that is actually the core of what the real Christian message is actually about. If there is original sin, it is the belief that we are separate from God, because that which is the all, by which I mean the divine feminine and divine masculine, the one, the divine source, is not separate from creation. It is one and the same thing. Creation and the divine is the same, and therefore we are God. It is all God. The fag ash in the ashtray is God. The biscuits on the plate are God. The dregs of the coffee in my cup are God. It is all God. The good and the bad. There is no separation. And it's our ignorance that makes us want to put up partitioning walls that create boundaries, but there aren't boundaries other than the ones we make in our minds. And the work in Glastonbury is to dismantle those boundaries. It always is. That's what we're always asked to do here, isn't it? We're always asked. Yeah, don't sit in judgment, Drew. Take a step back and watch. And that's when you learn. And you see the reflections, because it's all mirrors for ourselves and our own inner self. It always sounds a bit narcissistic, but that's really is the way of the world. The world is a mirror, and we're surrounded by a hall of mirrors, and some of those mirrors are dark mirrors and some of them are light mirrors. And the truth with the dark mirrors is often the ones we feel least comfortable with are the ones we actually need to look at the most. They're the ones we need to comprehend, because that's where we've got the most work to be doing on ourselves and our own consciousness. If I'm uncomfortable with something, it's because the dis-ease is in myself. It's not external, it's in me. And if I change that, then I will be comfortable with it. And the problem usually at that point, once I get the lesson, the problem evaporates. I'm happy to storytell the journey and what it's been about, and the things that I've seen and experienced here in Glastonbury. I have met the goddess and the god here in all sorts of aspects and forms. And the local divinity, feminine divinity, I think that's most powerful for me would be Bridget. It's huge for me here. Some part of me at core is very much a swan warrior. And yeah, Bridget is fantastic, and also both as pagan goddess, but also as Christian saint. She's the most important Christian saint in Ireland. It's one of the few things that North and South actually agree upon. That Celtic crossover is a huge bridge between Christianity and paganism, and that's part of the privilege of the role of being a Druid priest, really, is being able to work with both sides of that and know that it's all the same thing. Knowing it's the same thing. So working with the church here, working with the town council, and with all aspects of the community here is just, it's a blessing, it's a life blessing.
This year the theme of the conference is the Sovereign Lady of Avalon. My question is, what does sovereignty mean to you, and how does living in Avalon empower you in your sovereignty?
Sovereignty, divine sovereignty. We are all kings and queens. For me, personally, sovereignty is very much rolled up in my archetypal role as Archdruid here. And having been asked to take that archetype on and that role on, which will be most of a lifetime. And on one level slightly terrifying, but a huge privilege. And to become Archdruid, you have to take an oath to land and place, and that's not just Avalon, but that's to Britain and the Isles of Britain, to all of the land that I'm part of. Is that primarily I am here to serve it, to protect it, to defend it, and should it be asked, to give my life for it. And so the question the god asked me, the antlered god asked me one day walking up Silver Street was, are you willing to die that the land may live? And I paused. I went, well, my lord, yes, I am willing to die that the land may live if my blood will make the difference. And the god's response was, good answer, because I'd added a caveat on that oath. Yes, I'm willing to die that the land may live. Only if it'll make the difference, because otherwise it's a wasted sacrifice. One always lives in hopes that you don't have to make that sacrifice, but that sacrifice ultimately would be a sacrifice I would make of myself out of love for land and place. So it would never be a meaningless sacrifice. And more often than not, Spirit doesn't ask for that level of sacrifice anyway. It's not required. Most of the sacrifice that we really have to do is our internal ones. Letting go of our own self-perceptions and our own boundaries and barriers and illusions. And it's a process of spiritual evolution and healing that is being demanded of us. And sometimes that's stressful and hard work and upsetting. I go through various crises points, but that's life. It's certainly my life anyway.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for your words. Thank you for sharing with us.
Pleasure.
On behalf of everyone that watches, hopefully we'll see you at the conference or around town during the time.
And folks, a blessing, a Druid blessing to you. May you never hunger, may you never thirst.